yeah, we'll go ahead and get started with some intros, and then we'll launch a couple of polls to get to know y'all a bit better. So, Simone, would you like to start us off with introductions?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Simone. I'm a rising junior in Branford College, the objectively most beautiful residential college. Michael knows what I'm talking about. I'm an astrophysics major. I'm from a suburb of Chicago called Flossmoor, Illinois, but I also, could be from other places in the United States if, want to just ask me. Also a California girl at heart. On campus, I'm involved in the Yale Black Women's Coalition, the Black Student Alliance at Yale. I occasionally do club gymnastics. I'm in the Heritage Theater Ensemble. I'm currently in 2 virtual productions, one of which goes up on Thursday. So excited. Oh my gosh. I'm in the Yale Undergraduate Prison Project. I play the clarinet for the Davenport Pops Orchestra. I'm currently doing research remotely through the astronomy department. And I guarantee you that I have missed something, but we'll go ahead and end it there. Did I say I was an astrophysics major? I'm an astrophysics major. Okay.
Awesome. Y'all should ask Simone about her favorite astrophysics course. I'm just putting that out there if y'all are interested. But hello, I could just go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael. He, him pronouns. I am a sophomore in Branford College. Objectively, 100% the best residential college, and we can talk all about it. But I am originally from California, currently residing in the Bay Area, have done this semester remote, studying political science and ethnicity, race, and migration. Outside of classes, I'm a peer liaison for the Asian American Cultural Center, so I have a group of 30 or so Asian and Asian American first years that I'm helping to support throughout their first year at Yale. Outside of that, also involved with a couple of affiliate organizations under the Asian American Cultural Center, something I didn't think I was going to be involved with while I was in high school. And then also in my first year, I dabbled in student government and also volunteered in New Haven through Dwight Hall, which is Yale Center for Public Service and Social Justice. I'm happy to talk about what it's like being from, a different part of the country or the world and moving to New Haven. Also happy to talk about the first-gen low-income student experience as well and the wide array of support systems that Yale offers. But without further ado, I will pass on to Emma.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for my technical difficulties. I'm also fresh out the shower, so you'll watch my hair change colors throughout this student forum. I am a rising senior, currently living in New Haven, but originally from Braintree, Massachusetts. I am a psychology major and a part of the Global Health Studies program. I'm also dual enrolled at Yale School of Public Health, where I'm pursuing an MPH in health policy. I had no idea that I wanted to do any of those things before Yale, so I'm happy to talk about that. I'm currently not studying because I'm unenrolled, working 2 part-time jobs and just sort of recollecting, recognizing that Zoom University is not for me, so I'm hopefully excited for the following year. On campus, I really love the art scene. I'm involved in a couple of a cappella groups, have been in many theater shows in different capacities, kind of continuing some interests from high school and then starting new interests in college. I'm a part of a student group called SHE, which is STEM and Health Equity Advocates through Dwight Hall. I do research in a psychology lab. It's called the Mechanisms of Disinhibition Lab. It's basically a fancy way of saying I study psychopaths and antisocial behavior. And then besides that, I have studied abroad in Amsterdam. I love hanging out with my friends, and I'm a New Haven coffee shop enthusiast. And that's a little bit about me.
Oh, yes, the New Haven coffee shops, truly the best. But now that you all know a bit about us, we want to know a bit about all of you as well. So first poll I'm launching is just asking, where in the world are you tuning in from today? Always pulling for my West Coasters.
We have a good mix.
We do. Hello, we have some international students joining us. That's always super exciting. Welcome. Thanks for joining despite the time zone differences. Not sure what time it is, but we appreciate you joining us. Amazing. So we have people from all around the world. Hello, hello. And then our second poll, academic interest. Simone and Emma know I always pull for team undecided, so it's totally okay. And even if we're majoring in something that you may not be interested in and you're more interested in, like the math or something else, we definitely have friends that are majoring in those areas, so we'd be happy to answer any of those questions.
Yes, life and physical sciences and engineering and applied sciences.
Science is pulling through.
I love the social science and humanities group as well as the science group. I just can't do numbers or, but. And then lastly, Clasher, we know this is the kind of the midst, the final push until regular decisions in like, half a month or so. So more than happy to talk about, share any application advice and talk about our journeys to Yale as well. Amazing. Hello. Welcome, junior, senior, high school graduates. Hello, hello. Awesome. Just as a reminder, again, feel free to drop any and all questions or just comments, things you want to learn more about in the Q&A function below. We'll try to get through as many as we can. And just based off of the crowd we have today, it's very possible that we'll be able to answer all the questions. So don't be shy. Drop your questions. But we'll go ahead and get started. And our first, this is great. I think our first question from Sophia asked if we could, how would we describe the community at Yale? Emma, would you like to start us off on this one? As someone in New Haven right now.
Yeah, sure. I'd love for you guys to fill in the gaps, but at a very aerial view, Yale's community is collaborative, it's curious, it's passionate. People are constantly looking for ways to collaborate and support each other. I think I was really worried coming to Yale that I was going to be alone. If I needed to ask for help, I wouldn't have people to ask help from. And it's just been the exact opposite. I find that my favorite thing to do is cheer my friends on and have my friends cheer me on back. There's tons going on campus where people can support one another, both academically and extracurricularly. And I'd say that Yaleys like to have fun, and Yaleys also like to be normal and watch The Bachelorette together while also developing new softwares and cures to diseases. So it's a really fun vibe here and a very welcoming vibe, which I didn't anticipate. What about you, Simone?
When you just mentioned The Bachelorette, that just brought me back to I was in octet last year of entirely girls, and our favorite pastime, or our favorite, I dragged the rest of my suite mates into watching both Love Island and The Bachelorette. It was The Bachelor with me last year. So I really miss that. But I do think the Yale community is a really unique community, a community that I wasn't expecting when I got here. And one of the biggest things that surprised me is that everyone is so special. And sometimes you wouldn't know that when you first meet someone, and then you get to know them, and you're, oh my gosh, you're mine. It's incredible. And I think the people that I've met, the friends that I've made, including both Michael and Emma, continue to surprise me every day. And I'm just so grateful for the people that I've gotten to know, because they're just incredible people, and also just so passionate about something. When you get a Yalie to talk about their passions, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only thing I can add on is on one end, these are the most talented, brilliant, accomplished people you'll ever meet in your life. But these same people are also the most down-to-earth, funny, and kind-hearted people who, will be there for you at 3 a.m. when you're oh my God, I miss home. And they're come into my common room. I have all these snacks for you. Or your friends who will deliver you food and snacks to you because they know where you study in the library and they know you have 3 midterms in one day, right? These people who, could definitely be using that time on whatever they're doing, but will take time out of their day to support you, to make you feel loved and welcomed in the community. And I think after being home for these couple of months, that's the thing I miss the most, is seeing those people who have invested so much love and time and energy into my growth in college, and also excited to see them again so I can share the same type of energy and love with them. So I think Yale, honestly, the people, something about it that I know, when you go to a lot of college info sessions, everyone's the people, but truly at Yale, I'm still struggling to find adequate words to describe the community, because truly it is people are just so full of love and compassion, and I think that truly makes Yaleys such an amazing group of people. But moving on, looking at what other questions. So I think this kind of like relates to the community, but in terms of like the academic community, another question from Sophia is asking if there is a particular faculty member that has enhanced our learning experience at Yale. And I could start off with this. I honestly, so many professors, but I'll limit myself to two. So in my spring semester of my first year, I took a first year seminar, which is a program Yale has that allows, it's like a set of super cool seminar classes that are limited to like 15 students per class that are only for first years. So you get that intimate experience right off the bat. And my professor, Professor Gordon, was truly just so amazing. Like the class was structured where typically you would come into like, an English class or like a writing class, and you would expect like super long essays or like, certain like, research or analysis and all that type of stuff. And for our class, which is a class focused on short stories, our 5 writing assignments were like the 5 parts of a short story. And which was super cool because they were like not that long of writing assignments, but really there was an emphasis on like being thoughtful and really being detailed. And it really showed me a completely different side of writing that I didn't expect. And also he brought in like cakes and food every single class. So we just read short stories and we ate like custom-made cakes, which is fantastic. And then the other professor, Professor Tran, who I'm taking an ER&M seminar on Asian diasporas this semester, even though it has been remote, the class is capped at like, there's only like 11 students in the class, and we've had a really like intimate and close like learning community this semester. And with Professor Tran, as my first ER&M seminar, I often found myself very like lost in theory and like not knowing what was going on. But she was so supportive and kind this semester, and held my hand throughout like learning all these things and like trying to like, learn all these different like theoretical frameworks from a new department that I really had no idea what I was like getting myself into. And so those are 2 professors, but I will say like all professors at Yale are pretty dope. Yeah. What about you, Simone or Emma?
I think Michael covered a lot of it. Just in general, there are so many professors at Yale who are seeking relationships with their students, to the point where you kind of like, if you don't want to interact with your professor, you kind of got to hide from them a little bit, because they want to build relationships with students and they want you to do well. I've had way more experiences like that than I've had like more apathetic professors or professors who aren't interested. Actually, I don't think I've had any professor who wasn't interested in me. And that I think is really unique. And then you find a professor that you connect with too, and then you can build those like advisor relationships that are really special.
Yeah, the only thing that I can provide, because you guys covered it so well, is like, it's just so easy to get close with faculty, as Simone was saying. I took a class my sophomore fall called The Criminal Mind and really loved it and just thought my professor was the coolest person ever, like a young woman leading the field of psychopathy. And so I emailed her, having never spoken to her. We got coffee. She offered me a spot in her lab, and now I've taken 3 classes with her, and she's going to be my thesis advisor. If anything, she's probably sick of me, but like, it's really cool. I feel like we're functionally friends at this point. Yes, I'm learning a ton from her, and she's going to grade my thesis, but we also like talk about her dogs and her life. And so it's definitely feasible to make really close bonds with your faculty members at Yale.
Definitely. Emma, we have a specific question for you. So exciting. This attendee would love to hear more about like what like your public health major or your work at the MPH, and like as an undergrad, how that process works, and like can it be combined with like another major like neuroscience?
Absolutely. So right now, Yale actually doesn't have a streamlined public health major. I would love if they did, but I also think the way that it works right now is kind of cool. So people major in whatever they want and then come together and bring different majors and different perspectives to the field of public health. So one of the most streamlined ways people get involved in public health at Yale is through this smaller multidisciplinary academic program called Global Health Studies. I'll link to it in the chat so people can see it, but basically anybody from any major can join that program, and that program kind of functions like a minor. So I'm a psychology major fulfilling the global health program, but I have friends in it that are English majors and ethnicity, race, migration majors and women, gender, sexuality studies majors and sociology majors. So it the essence of the program kind of highlights that the field is very interdisciplinary and requires different fields of thought. And so there are a ton of ways to get involved with public health as an undergrad. You just need to kind of figure out what's important to you. If you want to do the sociology global health track, or, in my experience, you like global health from a psychology perspective. So a little daunting, but also a ton of freedom. And then I'm trying to find the rest of the question. You can absolutely do it with neuroscience. If you want to do a major that kind of focuses on public health, you can double major. About 15% of students double major, and the way that the Yale curriculum is set up allows you time for a double major if you choose to pursue that. But you also could be a neuro major and then be a part of this global health studies program. That was a lot of information at once, but I recommend going on our website. It's really helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emma. And then kind of in line, I just want to make sure we just get through all the academic questions, and then we can transition to another part. But Simone, I will throw this question to you. How many hours do you spend on homework outside of class time? And then maybe this can transition into what the social scene is like, what the social atmosphere is like.
Absolutely. So the hours that you spend on your classes will change depending on your major, depending on your semester, depending on the classes you're taking. It totally changes. So my easiest semester, I think I spent maybe a few hours a day. I mean, sometimes I would get a couple days where I didn't really have to do a whole bunch of work, and then I'd have one day where it would all catch up to me, and then I'd have to spend a long time on homework. I think in terms of normal, well, like I said, it totally depends. As an astrophysics major, I spend more time on my homework than one of my friends who was oh my gosh, what was her major? I actually don't even remember, but I spent more time on my homework just because my problem sets took longer than her readings. If you ask each one of us, we could all talk about different ways that we spend our time, but it also, the way that I study my homework is not just holed up in my room. I mean, sometimes I have to do that, but I prefer to spend it studying with other students, studying with other people, so that it feels a little bit easier, it's a little bit less stressful, and then it bleeds a little bit into social time, like Michael was talking about, where I do both social time and studying at the same time when I study with my friends. It's not always, the greatest mode of studying, but it's a nice way to feel a little bit less stressed. Michael or Emma, did you have anything you wanted to add about that?
No, I think the only thing I will say is in college you have a lot more free time, so it really is up to you to fulfill your see how the schedule works out. But it really does depend on major. But homework isn't it will take up time, but is not the dominant thing. You will not be going through all 4 years of college just doing homework, because that way you won't actually get an actual college experience. So there are so many other things, but it definitely goes down to being able to time manage well. Awesome. Let me see if there are any other. Okay, awesome. There's a question about majors, switching between majors and schools. So what's nice about Yale is there isn't a separate, for the undergrad, it's not the engineering majors are housed in a separate undergrad school of engineering where you have to apply into the engineering school and you can't switch out. It's all majors are open for students. So if you come in thinking you want to be an engineering major, and then after taking your first couple of engineering classes you realize that maybe that's not for me, I want to pursue something more in line of social sciences, you can make that switch. You don't have to declare your major at Yale until the end of your sophomore year, so that gives you basically half of the time at Yale, your 4 semesters out of 8 to figure out what you want to do. And it's super easy to switch. You just do it online. But how the credit distribution works at Yale is you need 36 course credits to obtain a bachelor's degree. 12 of them come from your major. 12 of them come from your distributional requirements, which include language, writing, quantitative reasoning, science, social sciences, and arts and humanities courses. So in those 6 areas, you take 2 courses in each area, and then the last 12 are elective courses. So there's a lot of space to explore. You don't have to come in thinking you want to study something and then stick with it. I came into Yale thinking I wanted to be an econ major, and now I'm everything but econ. So it is definitely very flexible. Simone or Emma, anything else to add on that one?
I have a friend that Michael knows because they're peer liaisons at the AACC together. She was pre-med, knew she wanted to do the molecular cellular developmental biology major, and then the last day of sophomore year had a change of heart, decided she was more passionate about East Asian studies, and declared that major instead, and has been able to like do that. Also declaring an evolutionary biology major. So it's like you really can, you know, you don't have to be pigeonholed into one major if you have a change of heart. And you can change from such different fields like my friend did. So don't feel limited at Yale in any sense.
Yeah, great. And then I'm looking, we have a lot of great questions. Thank you all so much for submitting all of these. I think we can shift a bit into, there's another question on academics. Perfect, we'll answer this one. Amazing. So in terms of distribution requirements, do AP credits and high school languages count for a credit? So it really depends on like the department, but like, for example, if you took like an AP language course in high school and you like took the AP test or you didn't, like there's a placement test at the beginning of the semesters to see like where you stand. So if you like, for example, took like an AP Spanish class and got a 5 on it, like you wouldn't come into Yale taking like level 1 through 4 Spanish. Like you'd automatically be an L5, which is like the highest level of Spanish. And for your language requirement, you would only need to take one language class to fulfill that. So it depends for language on like what level you're at before you come into Yale. And then some other like departments, they do give AP credits count as credit on your transcript, but they will not fulfill any distributional or major requirements. So you'll just have that as like a credit on your transcript. And it also depends, but I will send in like in the chat a link regarding like credit, like acceleration and AP credit type stuff. So yeah, that answers that question. And then another question, yes, I did say I'm not fond of numbers. Did I ever struggle with the liberal arts, feel like it wasn't enough for you? Honestly, I really love the format at Yale, especially in terms of the distributional requirements, because I'm not a fan of numbers in terms of like, I'm not a big fan of calculus. Like I wouldn't want to take a calculus class just for fun. However, there still is like the quantitative reasoning part of the requirements that I still need to fulfill. But Yale has super cool classes that like, if you aren't a science person or if you aren't like a hard calculus type person, there are other classes for you to fulfill that. So one of my favorite classes I took at Yale was a science course actually called Human Evolutionary Biology and Life History. And Professor Valegia is amazing. We would start every class with like a meditation session, and that science class like was connected to so many things like race and like how race impacts medicine and like thinking about like, you know, things like birth control and like stuff like that was really relevant to the real world that I didn't expect in a science course. But you know, it wasn't like organic chemistry and I was still able to fulfill it. So I think Yale structure with the liberal arts really, you know, I think, and with the credit distribution really helps, I think, calm a lot of nerves. But enough of me talking. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for rambling, y'all. We'll transition into talking about the res colleges. So Emma or Simone, would you like to give a breakdown of what the res colleges are in case some people don't know, and what your favorite thing about the res colleges are?
What do you think, Simone?
Either you can go, I can go. We could tag team it. It doesn't really matter.
Go for it, and I'll fill in if you miss anything.
Okay, thank you. So the residential college system, we like to say, is a little bit like Hogwarts in the sense that you get sorted into one of the 14 residential colleges before you even get on campus. The difference is that there is not like one college for nerds, one college for jocks, or like anything. It's not based on personality. It is a random assortment. But the group of students that is placed in that college is meant to represent the geographic, academic, and ethnic diversity of the university at large. I think those are the 3 words. So that, for example, if there's a certain percentage of international students in the entire university, or I think Yale College, then that percentage will be reflected in that residential college. The idea is to get you exposed to other students that you may not have met before, so that you experience like that full Yale College experience in your small residential college. We like to say it's like a microcosm of the university. So your residential college, you'll get placed into one of those colleges. Then 10 of the residential colleges house their first years on Old Campus, which is a very old part of campus. And you will be living in a building with other first years that are placed in your residential college with you. And it's an entirely first years except for the first year counselors that we call FROCOs. And they will live in your building with you, and they are resources to help you out. Really, really important resources for just getting adjusted, because you can ask them anything. Actually, for the first couple of weeks, you have meetings with your FROCO and your FROCO group, which is like a little bit less than 10 students in one group, that you like eat meals together and have FROCO meetings where you play games, get to know each other, learn about the campus during orientation. And it's a really, really nice resource just for getting adjusted. If you are in one of the 4 residential colleges that doesn't house their first years on Old Campus, then you will go immediately to your residential college and live there from the first time you step on campus. I think the residential college system is amazing, especially because in the winter when it's cold and I don't have to leave my residential college, I don't have to step outside unless I'm going to class because I can go through the basement and access my dining hall, my laundry, a gym, so many libraries, our buttery, which is this late night like kitchen that every residential college has. I'm actually a buttery worker. We make food, like junk food, that's subsidized by the university, which is great. So it's really cheap. Like you can get a quesadilla for like $1, and like really good quesadillas. They also, you will get placed by your dean with suite. So Yale has suite style living, which means that you will live in rooms that are attached to a common room. And you can live in a single where it's just one room attached to a common room. Or you can live in a whole, like I lived in an octet, which means that there were 8 girls living in one suite and we had one common room. Sometimes you have a bathroom in your suite, sometimes you don't. I've had a 4 bathroom both years that I lived on campus, but it's really nice. And you get assigned in your suite your first year based off of a housing form that you have to survey that you have to fill out that asks your preferences, like, are you a night owl or early bird? Would you like your suite to be a social hub? Would you like your suite to be more of like a study place? And then they match you with people who are similar, but also people that you might not have met normally just on campus. And that's how I got matched with amazing people my freshman year. My roommate, who I was texting like a few minutes ago, because we're currently talking about Twilight, and love it. Never would have met her at all unless we had been paired together as roommates. So I really like the residential college system. Emma, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think you covered like literally everything. I would just say, in addition to the FROCOs, you also have other adults that live in the colleges with you, like your head of college and your dean of college. And these are adults who have literally chosen to live in the college with you. You'll have academic advisors. Like there is never going to be a moment when there isn't someone available to help you. Maybe your head of college is busy, you ask your dean. If your dean is busy, you ask, like there's just a line of people set up to help you. And those people have opted to live in the same spaces as you because they care about you so much. So that's really nice. On your first day of school, your dean and head of college has spent time studying your face so that they can say, hello, Simone, before you even introduce yourself. It's a little creepy, but I think it gets the point across that they really care. It's kind of like your built-in home. Yale students will find communities in other parts of Yale through their extracurricular and academic interests, but from day one, you have your res college as your like built-in community. And people actually graduate from their res colleges. That's how like integral to Yale this experience is. You'll graduate with the larger Yale student body, but then finish in your residential college. So next year I'll graduate from Silliman and it'll be really emotional.
Oh man, yeah. Hearing Simone and Emma talk about res colleges, I'm ready to go back to campus, y'all. I like booked my flight yesterday. Fingers crossed for the return. But kind of in line with the res colleges, I also want to answer Kaylee's question about how it's like being a first generation student at Yale, because I think the res colleges really make the like social aspect of that a lot more manageable. Like you have a home base, a community that allows you to integrate really easily. You have your FROGOs, your dean, your head of college, your peer liaisons who are all in your res colleges. They're supporting you from day one. And so from that end, you get a lot of support. And then academically, from your academic advisor, Yale has great academic resources like the Writing Center that I go to before I turn in every paper. They just have like the best writers at Yale who have like been hand selected by the professors to just help you with writing, whether it's like creating an outline, drafting, your final like draft. They can help you with that. Peer tutors for basically every single STEM/math class possible at Yale, and your like graduate teaching assistants and teaching fellows. So socially and academically, I think there are a lot of support. And then more specifically, just for resources for first-gen low-income students, Yale has has an initiative called the Community Initiative, which is like a effort started by the dean's office meant to, the whole purpose of it is to support first-gen and low-income students. And they do a bunch of various programming. They work with academic strategies, which host like a series of workshops about like, how do I study? How do I manage my time? How do I cultivate faculty, like, relationships and all that? So I just sent in the website that leads to Community Initiative and talking about the FGLI experience. But I think in my own experience as being someone who is first gen and low income background at Yale, I think I've felt super supported socially, emotionally, academically. I think just looking at the Yale population as a whole, about a fifth of Yalees are either first gen or low income, and over 50% of students receive a financial aid package, with the average financial aid package over $55,000. So definitely lots of support. Also, if you come from like a warmer climate, Yale also has a winter clothing like grant. So like, coats are expensive, winter apparel is expensive, but if you are on financial aid, you can apply for winter funding and they give you like a couple $100s to buy a coat. And there's also safety net, where in the case where you find yourself in like an emergency, like financial situation and you need like money to use, there's a resource for that, and they will also provide money. So yeah, definitely check out the website. There's so many different resources and organizations that focus on FGLI students at Yale. Great. And then going back to talking about like the residential life and social scene and all that, my favorite question, talking about New Haven, because oh my God, y'all, New Haven, so amazing. So there's a question about we could just talk broadly about New Haven, and then also in terms of like jobs and internships and like opportunities in the city. And I will throw this to Emma, who is currently in New Haven.
I'm looking out my window at beautiful New Haven as we speak. I've really fallen in love with this city, and what I will start with is saying I didn't really know anything about New Haven before coming to Yale. My first time going to New Haven was visiting Yale, and before coming here, I figured that New Haven was just the place that Yale was located, and it is so much more than that, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to study here, because this is the most vibrant, rich, diverse place I think I've ever spent time. And I think it's really important that I've spent my formative years in such a cool small city with so much to offer. It's called the greatest small city in America. I'd say it's like a medium-sized city. It's around 130,000 people. There are 2 Tony Award-winning theaters here, the second largest collection of public free art, second to our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. In downtown, like this 2x2 block, there's over 100 restaurants, all different kinds of foods from all over the world. And recently in a data science project by Nate Silver with 538, there was a group of people who wanted to figure out what the most American city was. And when you think of the word American, certain ideas come to mind. But they did this survey based on, I think, the demographics were age, educational status, race, and a few other things. And they found that New Haven, Connecticut was the most American city because it represented the American population on all of those fronts. And so going to school here, you're like able to interact with, it's kind of like the res college as being a smaller sample of Yale. New Haven is like a smaller sample of the United States. And you get to be a Yalee, you also get to be a New Haven resident, contribute to New Haven in meaningful, conscious ways. I really love it here. You can go on hikes, can walk around the city, you can go to farmers markets. Like there's just so much to do. I have a really long bucket list and I've definitely tried to check all the things off and I still haven't gotten there as a rising senior. So I'm excited to return to that bucket list when it's safe. What did I miss?
The bucket list. The amount of bucket lists I have made over these past 9 months, like my entire notes app is just like Yale bucket list week 1, Yale bucket list week 2. Like there's so many. Like I just think like the food is spectacular. The like you mentioned, Emma, the like vibrant art scene. And then honestly, just like the community members, like I think I talk a lot about like how amazing Yaleys are, but like New Haveners are equally as fantastic. Like they are so nice and kind and really like involved and invested in the community. I think in my first year, I did a program through Dwight Hall called First Years in Support of New Haven. And we just explored like local like nonprofits and organizations and learned about like what they do for the like in the community, and there truly are really, really spectacular individuals, and a lot of Yaleys who actually after they graduate stay in New Haven because they love the city so much and like have started like these like startups or like these like working nonprofits like the New Haven Legal Assistant Legal Aid Association or things like that. And so super cool, super amazing city. I think it's pretty underrated, but hopefully from hearing us talk about it, like Google New Haven, check it out. There's so many cool things to do in the city. Simone, anything else you wanna add? You could just rave about how you miss it too, honestly. Like
I mean, I think Michael and Emma talked about so much of New Haven. It's just a city that you have to experience for yourself. I think there's a lot of people have an idea of New Haven before they get there, if you've heard anything about it. And then you just really have to live in it and then step out into it to really know what it's like. A lot of people can get in like the Yale bubble where you just don't really go out into New Haven, which I think is unfortunate because you miss a part of Yale that is or just a part of the Yale experience that is just really, really amazing. I mean, it's really a New Haven experience. It's like Yale's a part of a New Haven experience. So I just say, check it out.
Amazing. We have a couple more questions on seeing how we can best. We love ending with the what makes Yale unique / why did we choose Yale question. So yes, that we love ending off student forums with that question. I think more things about Yale. This is a really great question. What would you say differentiates a Yale student from a student at another university? Simone, Emma, any initial thoughts? I can also start off. I think what we talked earlier, when we talked earlier about like the collaborative environment at Yale, I think it's very easy, like also for me as like a high schooler applying to college thinking like, oh my God, all these like students at all these universities are going to be incredibly intense. They're going to be super like hyper competitive, focused on like their own goals and like academics, and like everyone will kind of be closed off. And hearing from, you know, some of my other friends who've gone to other universities, like they have had experiences like that. But I will say at Yale, like what I said earlier, like everyone is so incredibly invested and passionate about their own interests. And they're also very motivated, but it's just like the amount of like how kind, how loving, how supportive they are really, I think, sets Yaleys apart. Like students who will, when you come visit, whenever you do get a chance, will be tripping over themselves to like take you to places and to show you around and to swipe you into buildings and to show you what the dining halls and suites look like. To like students who are like, who help with like when I'm like applying for things, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I've had so many like upper class friends who've just been like, oh my God, Michael, like I've gone through this, like let me guide you through this process. And they've just been like so supportive. And I think that was really what I appreciate about Yaleys, and I think is also something that sets Yaleys apart from a lot of other students at other universities. Anything else to add, Emma or Simone? Are we shared sentiment? Amazing. Okay, cool. So for Emma, Simone, maybe y'all can talk a little bit about how you feel Yale helps students pursue their passions maybe in terms of like, Emma, you could study abroad, Office of Career Strategy maybe, but also, yeah, any other ways that Yale helps students pursue their passions?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk a little bit about financial opportunities that Yale provides to people and then, kind of get into the ethos of Yale. If you're a student on financial aid, you can definitely take advantage of a ton of resources here to make sure that you're pursuing your passions. Also, I think over 50% of students receive financial aid, and the average financial package is over $50,000. You can estimate what Yale is going to cost you through like quick cost estimators, which we'll drop in the chat. But I'm a student on financial aid, and I was able to travel abroad to Amsterdam last summer and really learn about myself, learn about public health, pursue my passion for public health by learning about their healthcare system, and did so because Yale, the percentage of financial aid I received for the academic year, they applied that percentage to my abroad experience. And so they were able to cover X percent of my abroad experience, which made it possible for me to go abroad. Similarly, this summer, I received the Domestic Summer Award, which is a stipend you get to do a domestic internship. I found an organization called the Black Hills Center for American Indian Health through a conversation with a friend, kind of like Michael was saying, an upperclassman looking out for me, helping me find an internship. And I enjoyed that experience so much, and they enjoyed having me that now I'm working for them as an independent consultant at 21. And so definitely, regardless of where you go to school, take advantage of the independent opportunities and all the financial opportunities that come your way. And then I won't speak for too much longer, but something I'll say is that having been at Yale for the past 3 years, I've learned that Yale will, when you graduate Yale, you will be, a master of your field. You'll be able to go into the workforce confidently. But I think Yale, more importantly, teaches you that you're still going to be learning after college, and that one of the reasons you go to college is to learn who you are and what you're passionate about and where your moral compass lies. And so you're still learning after you leave Yale, and that is not something to be stigmatized against or something like you're an incomplete student if you don't have your whole life figured out by 21. And so I feel in that sense, Yale helps you find your passions because it helps you recognize that you are still a young person when you leave here with a lot of room to grow. I don't know if anybody wants to add.
I think you covered that amazingly, Emma. I think there's also within your residential colleges, there are a bunch of different funding opportunities for various resources or things. If you're interested in the performing arts, there's creative performing arts grants. If you're interested in doing research, there are summer science research grants. There's just a lot of money that is ready to support you to pursue whatever endeavor you choose to go down at college, and also just so many different advisors and people who are there to kind of help hold your hand throughout the process. Yeah. So we're coming up to our last 15 minutes, and I really want to make an effort to answer all of these questions. So maybe let's do a rapid fire speed round. So I can take this question about, can you actually take courses for credit at Yale's genocide studies programs? So yes, Yale has a bunch of different programs affiliated with the Macmillan Center for International and Area Studies. And those programs offer a set of research opportunities, seminars, conferences on those subjects. And I will link, I will send you the website link, but I think in terms of the specific seminars they offer, they're more so we will meet once a week or once a month, and they aren't actually for course credit. However, Yale has over 2,000 courses offered every semester. And so if you're interested in studying something like genocide studies, just off of the top of my head, I was just looking at classes for next semester. There are a couple of classes that come to mind. There's a class on media and conflict, and then there's also a class called mass atrocities and global politics that could relate really well if that's something you're interested in. But whatever you are interested in, there is definitely a class and a program. And I think participating in separate programs like the one you mentioned would help supplement your course material at Yale. But I will also link that. Awesome. The next question is, yeah, Simone or Emma, maybe y'all can answer this. What does your 21 plus 1 mean?
Sure. Go ahead. Simone, do you want to answer it? I feel like I've been talking a lot.
It's really okay. It's a super quick answer. It just means that we're taking a gap year. So our initial graduation year, so Emma's initial graduation year was 2021. She was initially going to graduate this year, like this spring. And now because she's taking a gap year, she would be graduating 1 year after that. So +1, which would be 22. Like same for me. I was supposed to be graduating in 2022 and now I'm graduating in 2023.
A little fun fact about that is typically in the past, the only people who have used the +1 has been the Wiffenpoofs, which is what I'm doing currently. But now everybody gets to use it. And so it's like less of a weird thing. And I like seeing it. I feel like when we come back to campus, people are less likely to say, hi, I'm Simone, I'm 2022. They're probably just going to say like their age or like when, it'll be interesting how things will change because it's been really easy for students to take time off to do whatever it is they need to do, whether it's recoup or pursue professional opportunities. I definitely think after this year, there's no stigma associated with taking time off.
Right. And Yale has done a really, I think, a good job like supporting students who are on gap years and making like it very flexible and easy to do so. But also, Emma or Simone, I'll let y'all start off with this. What was your mindset when you applied to a competitive, like an Ivy League school like Yale, and what's your best advice to get into Yale?
This is a really good question. So my mindset, I applied to competitive schools before I applied to Yale. I think when I did most of my applications during regular decision. I just sent out a whole bunch and was like, we'll see what happens. And I think that my mindset initially was like, I'm going to apply just because I didn't think I was going to get in. I really didn't think I was going to get in. I thought it's just like a dream. And that happened with a lot of schools that I applied to. And then hearing back that I got in, it was kind of like, what? Like, huh? And I think just the application process, like the mindset is such a big part of the process too. So the first school that I applied to was actually my dream school, a school that I've been dreaming of going to my entire life, and I didn't get in. And that crushed me. I was devastated, to say the least. And it was a learning process, a really big learning process, because I knew that there was a very small chance I was going to get into that school. And I was trying to be realistic with myself. But then when they said no, I was like, oh my God. And I think that's a really common thing for people who are applying, like high schoolers, to feel, is that you get your heart set on a school and then you feel like your life can't be complete unless you go to that school. And then it's just not the case. A lot of these competitive schools, like the Ivies, have a very small number of spots for a very qualified applicant pool. Like there are tens of thousands of applications of people who will apply to schools like Yale, and then they're only something like 2,000 spots for a class. And there are way more qualified applicants than there are obviously spots for those students. So you can be a very qualified student who will do very well at Yale, and you just may not get in. That's the case for a lot of these schools. So I think it's really important to try to have an open mind and try to realize that you are going to be okay, whatever school you go to. You are going to go to a good school, and that your self-worth isn't wrapped up in that one school, which is why the mindset is really, really a very important thing for when you apply, because it shouldn't be like, you shouldn't wrap up your self-worth, your intelligence, your idea of like, am I good enough in your admissions decision? Because you never know.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. I'm lucky to say that Yale was my dream school and it ended up working out, but I really say luck because I, like many people, I think at Yale, went through the application process just applying to places for the name because they sounded prestigious. I know a lot of people who apply to all 8 Ivies and then Stanford and Duke and everything just because they figure, let me go to a good school. If they let me in, I'll go. But honestly, a lot of people that end up doing that end up unhappy where they are because they don't recognize that these 8 schools are incredibly different from one another, like in terms of location, in terms of what they prioritize. And so what I didn't do, and I would recommend to applicants, is spend some time on the websites, do your research, make sure that you feel as though this school could actually be a good fit for you. look at the language that they use on their admissions portals and Instagrams and see if it's something that you vibe with. It's not the worst thing in the world to figure out that you dislike something. If anything, it's just narrowing your pool more. So like genuinely look into things and see what excites you, not necessarily to name drop a specific program at Yale in your application just to look like you did the research, but like to take care of yourself and make sure that you know that the places you're applying you would be happy at. Don't just apply for the name, apply because the school and the community actually interests you, and the work will do itself. Also, you're 95% of the way there. You've done all of the work leading up. Now you just have to type the words and do a little bit of research. So it can seem really daunting, but you really have almost completed it.
Awesome. And then we have like 4 more questions I think we can get through within the next couple of minutes. But someone asked the question of if it's easy to make friends as an international student. And none of us are international students, but I will say Yale's, we love our international friends. Some of my best friends are international students. At Yale, I think what makes it really easy is your res college system and your like suite style living that immediately gives you like 20 friends on your like first day, and then through like whether through the cultural centers for international students, there's a resource office called the Office of International Students and Scholars, and then also a bunch of international student organizations where like you'll find your pockets of community, just like how every other Yale will find their pockets of community, different pockets of community on campus. But I will say like Yale has like these, you know, organizations and structures and like support systems in place that make it a lot less daunting, and I would say like definitely in terms of socially at least like very easy to meet new people, to make friends. So definitely would encourage you not to that I definitely don't think is something that you need to worry about, because I think Yaleys are amazing. Super wholesome vibes. Awesome. And I'll just answer in terms of percentages of students taking gap years. I think in the sophomore class, around like a fifth of the class, around like 200 students took gap years. It does not affect your admissions. The admissions office is committed to doing this how they do it every single year. They're not going to like decrease the amount of students they accept by like a couple hundred. Still the same numbers. So definitely don't worry about that. Awesome. 3 words to describe Yale. Maybe each one of us could give a word. Simone or Emma, anything that comes to mind?
Passionate. Kind.
Home. I think that covers it. Yep, I'm about to start crying too. Okay. Would you say that Yale has helped you become a better leader?
Yeah, I'll answer this really quickly before we get to our last question, but 100%. The opportunities for you to become a student leader are endless. There are so many ways, and you can find something that appeals to you and become a student leader in that. One big thing that I really, really like is the ways that you can become like a resource for younger students to look up to if you want to help guide them through. There are so many ways you can do that. Michael mentioned that he's a peer liaison for the Asian American Cultural Center, which means that he's a leader for first years who are getting adjusted, and he helps them get adjusted. I was a counselor for the Cultural Connections Pre-Orientation Program. I've been a counselor for 2 years, and that program like blew my mind, the role that I kind of had to step into as mentor, but also friend, which is actually really tough to navigate, like really unexpectedly tough to navigate, but so worthwhile and so helpful. And Yale puts the trust in students, so much trust in us to lead our own lives, help lead other people. And if we want to like start our own thing, so easy to just step into that leadership role.
Amazing. And we are running very short on time, but I will try my best to be brief in terms of our last question. Why Yale? We love ending with this question. I think for me, when looking at like the overall spectrum of colleges in the United States, as a high school senior, right? You have your super large public schools, you have your smaller private schools, you have your more research intensive versus your like liberal arts, focus on residential life type schools. And I think at Yale, like it was the best of both worlds. Like I didn't have to choose one thing over the other. I was able to get all of that on one campus and so much more, right? You have your world-class research university with like 12 professional schools and its graduate school and all those resources and opportunities and people. And then you also had the Yale College experience with the super well-defined residential college system that allowed for a very intimate first-year experience, and the rest of my college experience, and the cultural centers, which only a handful of universities actually have like physical cultural centers on their campus. And so all those things stood out to me. And when I visited, it just, one, in addition to my jaw dropping when I first saw campus, I fell in love with the people. The director of the Asian American Cultural Center gave me a personal tour my first visit, and now she's my supervisor because I work for her under the AACC. So things come full circle, but people are amazing. Community is amazing. And honestly, I think I just love everything about Yale and New Haven. So that is why. Simone or Emma, please take it away.
Simone, I'm going to let you finish it off. I'll be super brief. One of the things that I did do my research on is look for what Yale wants in candidates. And as opposed to saying we want 1,600 on your SAT, we want perfect grades, we want you to be the valedictorian and the captain of your teams, they simply said, we're looking for people who would take advantage of Yale's opportunities and will most significantly contribute to the Yale community. And I was like, that's so sick. Like, I want to be a part of that. And so applied because I knew that the community was going to be really strong here, and it's completely exceeded my expectations. Like, people just show up for each other here. And so I'm so grateful that I've had this opportunity, and I hope some of you will as well.
Yeah, this question made me realize I mentioned that my dreams, I applied to my dream school and I was rejected. Not to say that Yale is not my dream school. Yale has become my dream school. I couldn't see myself anywhere else, and I'm so glad that I didn't get into the school that I first applied to, because I would not be as happy there as I am here. And I didn't know that until I looked at other schools, which is why when Emma said, like, read the website, learn about the schools, do the research, was really important, because when I did the research about Yale, I thought that is an amazing school and I would love to go there. And one of the big reasons that I chose Yale was because they offered me the most money. The financial aid package that I got at Yale was actually the best financial aid package that I received out of all of my schools. Another reason was the people, like both Emma and Michael have talked about, is just incredible. I think the resources that Yale puts into just fostering community in the undergraduates is incredible. It's ridiculous. Like, I've never been in a place that is so supportive in an atmosphere and environment like this before. And it really changed my life and like changed who I am as a person, because I am also like reflecting that supportive community that I was put into, that was offered to me. I love to find communities. I love to offer support to my friends and try to give back a little bit of what was given to me when I first got here. Another big, really important reason for me was that I'm a STEM major, but I'm also interested in the humanities. And I think that's really important for anyone who's a STEM major, interested in STEM, and wants to study at Yale, is that we are not a tech school. Like, if you want a school that is very like hardcore tech, like only STEM, that is not Yale. But the liberal arts education offers you the opportunity to focus on STEM, but also see what else like there is to learn about, and to explore and expose yourself to other types of learning and other types of information. And that was what I really, really wanted in a school. So I just say, make sure you do your research of the type of school that you're looking at, and make sure that whatever school you're applying to is a school that you could really see yourself at.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I miss y'all. I miss Yale. Thank you all so much for your fantastic questions and for joining us in this hour. We really appreciate you spending this hour with us. I dropped a couple of links in the chat. If you have more questions, feel free to submit them at the first link. Maybe one of us will answer it. And then there's also application advice. Check out our Instagram for really awesome content. And then the Inside the Yale Admissions Office podcast, where you can hear more from our lovely admissions officers. But thank you all once again. For those who are applying this cycle, good luck. You got this. We believe in you. We are already so proud of the work you have done. And stay safe and have a wonderful holiday season, y'all. Take care. Bye.